Here we are with Wheelock chapter 34 and another big topic, deponent verbs. So deponent verbs are verbs that have set aside. So depono is I set aside. So they're verbs that have set aside their active forms, and so they only use passive forms. So those passive forms have active meanings. So really no new forms to learn, just a new meaning to these forms. So hortor means I urge. Now it's passive in form. That looks like, it's like you recall. Laudo is I praise, active voice. Laudor is I am praised. But here hortor, it's I urge. It has a passive form, but it's active in meaning. And then its next principal part is its infinitive, hortari, but that's not to be urged. It just means to urge. It's active. And then its third principal part, it's I urged. Not I am urged, not I was urged, but I urge. Likewise, sequor means I follow. Sequi, to follow. Secutus sum is secutus sum. Yeah, it is secutus sum. That's a long oo. Secutus sum is I followed, not I am followed. Okay, so again, straightforward enough. You've got a lot of forms. He reviews a lot of forms for you, so you can get into your head how this is going to work. But really, none of these forms are new. You should review what's on page 282 and 283. Take a look at those forms that he set out for you, because those will be, they'll jog your memory a little bit for how the verb is formed in general. And then there are just a few exceptions and kind of tricky points to notice. So the big exception to the rule, and the rule is passive in form, active in meaning. Those big exceptions he lists for you on page 284, and they are: the gerundive still has a passive idea. So you recall when we use the gerundive, and you can remember how the gerundive is formed because it has that nd sound in the middle, and in its form it has this nd sound, and it has the idea of obligation, passive idea of obligation. So Dominus sequendus est, the Lord is to be followed. So this is a passive form, and it has a passive meaning. I call that the big exception. The little exception, it's not going to cause you confusion when you see it. You may just forget how to form it, and that is that the present and future participles and the future infinitive, they do still have active forms. So the present participle, hortans, urging, and hortatorus, about to urge, and or being about to urge, and hortatorus essa, about to urge. So those forms are like a normal verb. So again, when you encounter them in Latin, they're not going to cause you any confusion. They're active forms with active meanings, but they just happen. They're the one time that these deponent verbs use active forms, active voice forms. The imperatives can be tricky. These are on the top of page 285, because the second person singular sure looks like an infinitive, an active infinitive, doesn't it? But hortor doesn't have an active infinitive. So hortare means urge. Fatera means confess. So again, look those over on page, and then the plural is what you would expect, hortamini. Y'all urge them to do something, and fatamini, y'all confess. There are also semi-deponents, which means verbs that are only deponent in certain tenses, and so audeo means I dare, audera means to dare, ausis sum, so it's deponent in the perfect tenses and the pluperfect tense, means just I dared, not I am dared, or not I was dared, but I dared. So you can look over those on page 285. They give you a list of those. And then some deponent verbs especially take an ablative for their object. So utor means I use, fruor means I enjoy, fungor means I perform, podior means I possess, and vescor means I eat. So uditor stilo means he is using a pencil. So again, that looks like it's passive in meaning, right? You see that and you think, oh, that must mean he is used. No, you have to remember utor is a deponent. So it has passive forms, but they're active in meaning. So uditor is he is using, and then its object is in the ablative. He's using a pencil. He's making use of a pencil. Perhaps is how you can remember that in English, that these particular verbs of using or enjoying take ablatives for their direct object. So in some sense this is a long chapter, but in another sense it isn't. It's really one big idea and then kind of just a review of the verb forms that you already know from the passive voice. So read through the chapter closely, all his charts, read through those very closely, and I think you'll be fine. Lots of vocabulary, because here's a whole class of verbs that we haven't used yet. So we've got a whole lot of vocabulary. And again, when you are making your vocabulary cards, you should be making sure that you list on the front all the principal parts. So this is attempt, I attempt, canor, to attempt, canari, and I attempted, cannot sum. So really spend some time in your vocabulary this week. And then these are the translations I'd like you to work on, numbers 2 and 5 from page 287. So when you feel like you've got a handle on the vocabulary and how the deponent works, move on to these translations. And then as always, check your translations in the next video.